is the world. We need at least a phone. Even you need a phone and a simple connection to call the members of your family and to talk to your children and grandchildren. Out of 45 villages, many of them are totally cut off from the civilized world. Even radio doesn't work here, only in my place at my balcony. Much more used to be done before, and we were paid much more attention in the past. There is no employment, no industry, nothing. Agriculture is totally out of question. Nothing is being done. And our members of parliaments from these constituents, they don't even come to visit us. We would get 35 lari in addition to our pension. We need a telephone, internet, or whatever, just something that will allow us to get in touch with our members of our family. So at least once a month. In winter, it's very difficult, almost impossible to move around. If someone gets sick, we need to get it to Shatili at least. I got sick once and I couldn't go to Shatili. Yeah, sometimes it gets very bad snow, intensive snowing, and it's very difficult to move. During Shevardnadze time, there was once a weekly helicopter, and military is assisting us, and every month, every end of the month, helicopter flies in and we can use, and it's very difficult to move around and to have at least a weekly flight. I could go to Shatili. I would go to Shatili in winter by donkeys. It's 35 kilometers. And when I was coming back, I got stuck in the middle of the road and I had to overnight there. So this is not a life. This is a torture. Maybe government should do something and to hire workers and to make some roads and to build some bridges. So small vehicles cannot cross these rivers, and if you're bringing something up, you have to leave it down there because there's no way you can bring them up. You can't, we don't ask any highway or any vehicle road, just a walking path or route so that we can move by foot. We have difficulties to walk here, and beyond Shatili there is still Georgia. There is no youngsters living here. There was a school here 35 years ago, and it's very difficult for young people to stay here. There is no perspective. So why do you have to leave? So why do we have to leave? We all, everyone can understand how difficult life here is, and generations are the chain from generation, or connection from generation to generation is actually broken. And there is a policy and there is a call on coming back to mountainous regions, but what the intensives are, and nobody assists us, and the idea is that you have to come back to the place where you born, but we cannot do. We try to keep rangers and border patrol here, and they assist us. I am sorry that they talked about different other things that are not the subject of our forum, but I am sure that if there is telephone communication or internet communication there, many problems would have been solved, and people would not have complained about local government or central government. And I would like to take this opportunity and thank ISO and our other organizations who engaged in internetization of this, and I am very hopeful that this will not be dragged in time and will be resolved quite soon. In many villages, since there is no telephone communication and no internet, and if there is an internet, there will be connection through Viber or through other applications, and there will be many healthcare issues used. And so if there is no help, physical help, so there will be at least phone consultations. And the worst thing is that they cannot talk to members of their families, and youngsters went down to schools and universities and they couldn't get in touch with members of their families, and those who stayed there, they have to climb up to mountains to make a phone call. So I visited Tbilisi several times, and there are small villages and small hotels, house hotels, and they all have internet connection. And if internet connection is there, so tourism is going to be developed, and maybe other industries will also be developed, but internet will allow them to establish some maybe distance learning educational courses for with teachers, and we need to send some teachers there as well. And teachers who live there, they are elderly people mostly, and they don't have rudimentary means to provide education, and internet will make a big difference in terms of introduction of new educational courses, and maybe community mobilization will also be facilitated by internet access, and many other problems will be solved if we manage to provide internet connection.
It's a very impressive video. I mean, beautiful people of Georgia. And this is what we mean by community networks. I mean, you're absolutely right. I believe internet can do so much for those people there in the served communities. I'd like to jump precisely to our Tbilisi experience. We got Nino online, and I would like her to talk to her about what kind of lesson we can take from 1 year to Tbilisi. What are the 3 top lessons that we can learn in terms of how could we develop those kind of projects, how to ensure sustainability? Nino, can you hear me? We see you, but obviously you don't hear me. Could you hear me? Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay, good. You can hear me. So Nino, we just watched a video about all the challenges that exist when you need to connect people in the mountains. So you are the best person to talk about the experience of Tbilisi. I would like to hear from you what are the top 3 key issues that you see and the top 3 lessons that we can learn from our Tusheti experience. Back to you, Nino. Do you hear me?
Sorry, I really cannot hear what you're saying, but I assume you're hearing me, so I'll switch to Georgian, I assume.
Okay, no, I got you. So for the third time, I will ask my question. Look, we've seen just a video about the many challenges that exist when you try to connect people in the mountain. So we'd like to hear from you, what are the 3 lessons, the 3 most important lessons that we can learn from Tusheti? What would you like to say about Tusheti that we need to know when we discuss community network? The important issues.
Okay, I really cannot hear you because your microphone source is way far from your speaker source.
This is a story of this morning, don't worry. So let's talk about Tusheti. What should we hear about you? Tell me.
Okay, so do you want me to talk in English or Georgian?
Yeah, I would like you to tell us, we have, let me reframe the conversation. We have a great conversation about community networks in general and what needs to be done. And we have one great experience, and that is Tusheti. So what kind of lessons, what kind of important issues you would like us to know when we discuss how could we continue with community network in Georgia? What it is that we should know?
Okay, so I think this 1 year since community networks have been active, and this summer we tried to do a social economic impact assessment of what's the community networks changed in terms of economic improvements or livelihoods. I am certain that there are improvements, and we have a wonderful report out actually today that everyone can see on ISAC's website. But in terms of challenges, you are right that I also agree there are still some challenges associated with it, because first of all, access to technology does not really guarantee proactive use. For instance, by the antennas installed, we do know that it can cover 44 villages, but subscribers are only existent in 14 villages. And one of the reasons for doing so is that there is infrastructural unreadiness in terms of not everyone had access to stable electricity. I'm sure you were solar panels that have really helped this development. And also, not many local people go to their villages as long durations and during the summer to actually acquire the internet lines. But what is important is that me personally, that we had this impact assessment and tried to preserve qualitative data of what has changed, is that those 7 villages, for instance, never had connection to the outer world by even a mobile connection. I think that is the biggest lessons learned and biggest achievement of this, looking at the shepherds or how they can now get connected and have internet as a main source of communication when it's really a matter of life or death situations is one of the key achievements. But also, I think that we saw a great development and opportunities in terms of tourism and economic prosperity, because Tusheti is quite famous and quite unique with its tourism industry, right? So, for instance, what we observed is this summer only 10 new hotels opened up in Tusheti, and for some of the hotel owners who are local residents who decided to invest in the hotel construction, internet was one of the prerequisites and one of the incentive, because they understand that internet can bring more tourists. We did observe that internet brings more tourists for longer stay, for instance, during the weekdays, because it enables tourists to come and stay there and get connected. We saw a lot of Georgians and also foreigners who did actually connect to internet and work from distance from Tusheti. So it does provide opportunities to expand to the not only hotel owners but the general industries in Tusheti. And for instance, one of the new hotels is in Verkhovani, which we in Jarboseli, which is the area where there is no mobile connection, and internet is indeed one of the new incentives. And I think furthermore, what we saw is that it's generally increased illiteracy. A great cooperation between World Bank and GTA provided illiteracy trainings to the small and medium enterprises. And by GTA reports, we do know that they managed to increase their sales by 11% by putting their hotels on Booking.com or Airbnb or Facebook, or selling their handicrafts online and trying to make use of this e-commerce platform that we have in Georgia. But also, if you observe how doing business has been improved by the internet, that's also one of the case. You see hotel owners doing their bank transfers online, paying for their bills, trying to do everything on distance. So try to catch up with this speedy pace of doing business in a modern world. So for our observation in this particular 1 year time frame, and it's good to understand that when we say 1 year, we actually mean only several months of tourism period where the roads are open and people actually go and have economic activities running. So I believe that in this short period of time, there are a really good stepping stones, but of course there are challenges as well, such as infrastructure. There were a lot of different issues with the batteries that got changed, so a lot of different costs that, for instance, was not unforeseen or was actually solved during the process. And again, internet is only a tool, and it has to be put in human hands, and that's when it takes a role and purpose. So, for instance, there is much more to be done in Tusheti in terms of making sure that internet can serve as enabler in other directions as well, such as providing a common space for people to get together and get internet access from there, providing internet to serve better as education or access to information. We did observe that some of the Tushetians do use e-governance services and revenue service online platforms for their work and personal matters, so that has also positively contributed to this. And I don't know, this is a general overview. It is really hard for me to talk from distance. I wish I was there because I'm unable to see the room and I'm unable to hear you, but I do hope that you can hear me from the faraway America. We did have a small video that I don't know if you showed it to the audience, but it would be great if you could share it with me.
Okay, thank you very much, Nino. Let's look at this. beautiful. So, I believe we now understand how we find those community network projects so exciting for
As
all
one of my
us.
first instructors
We
once
understand
said,
from Nino
doesn't
that
matter how many
those projects
certifications you
are
have.
sustainable, that when people start using the internet, many more people use it and then develop, I hear, e-commerce from the wonderful stuff and handicraft that you can find in Georgia. I would like to turn back to my panel, because indeed one of the critical questions is, yes, it's interesting to put networks and antennas, but if people don't use it, it's not very useful. How do you believe we should have people using the internet? How could we have people actually using the many possibilities of the internet, having the skills to do so? What it is that you see the role of government, of associations, what it is that we should do? Is anyone trying to answer this question? Do you want to try?
So we also have a presentation about what we do. Can we do it later or later? Okay.
Regarding this question, that what we do or our activity, I would prefer to have the pre-wording. So as for the our practice, we work with the socially underprivileged people, and we provide them the platform where which can be the, let's say, the funded by any of you, the use of the internet for the underprivileged people, for those people who lives in a highland area, in all in a conflict zone and so on. Also we make put in a Georgian language the like educational programs, IT programs, and some other, and we have the different experience with these children. So as for what we identified regarding the switch on, this is the name of them. So if that individual doesn't have the barrier like having the laptop or so and so on, so the digital literacy problem is resolved quite quickly. So and back in that time they didn't know how to use this digital, let's say, the literacy and information, but currently so the we need to expedite this the digital literacy process. But the main topic is those are the barriers that are internet like a solvency and to pay for internet. So within the children it happens quite quickly, and these but we consider that these are the main barriers that need to be resolved within the population. As for those topics that we're developing or trying to support wideband infrastructure development and the services and access to those services, it's definitely useful, but it would be meaningless if the population don't know how to use them. So, and if they don't know what is the benefit, what are the benefits. So this is one of the important topic, and within this topic there are many projects we are running. So I would like to highlight the scaleful on the Tusheti example. So how it happened that in how we provide the internet, what we did to inform the local population the benefits of internet, how to use them. So under the ministry, we have the Innovation and Technology Agency that falls under the umbrella of our ministry. So this is the one of the component which is running along with the World Bank. And one thing is the increase of awareness regarding the telecommunication and the broadband use of the broadband services accordingly. So on the one hand, we conducted a training for the local population, and some individuals they never heard that, they never knew how to use the computer. So also increase of the awareness SMEs with the benefit with the electrical the power gadgets and after the on the 1 year anniversary we've heard so the SMEs on the base of the census they use the communication services and no one asked the question how they use the computer and what is the internet so this we use the same approach to any highland areas. It is embedded in the Kenya project, and it's not the only project. And some other agencies are also working on the awareness of the increase of awareness of the local population, and we will keep on working in this direction as well.
Any question from the audience to any of the panelists? So we started with community networks. We see that while creating the right environment with different partners, you can have this wonderful project in underserved countries in the mountains where people start using it. We switch to, we need not only networks, but we need to create demand, awareness, putting some content, some services, and understand the government has some plans about that too. I like now to come back to the other side about demand. There is also the network and infrastructures. So I would like to ask those two ladies, including you from the Communications Commission, the GNCC, what are the right environment to create in Georgia for people to invest, for ISPs to invest into infrastructures, for ISP to invest into broadband? Do you have an idea, and what is the plan?
Good morning, Eka Sijinava. As a Georgian National Communication Commission representative, first of all, I would like to express my biggest honor towards this forum. It is very much important and a crucial forum. Whatever we've heard together, and topics such as accessibility had been rose here. So we all agreed that how much the broadband internet is important for the local population, especially let's say outside of the cities, in the highland areas, in the villages, especially in highland areas, and we clearly see so what results are reached throughout this development process. Accordingly, well, I also would like to express my deepest honor towards the state organizations for their activities. So also Georgia National Communication Organization. Also my honor, my respect to the Switch on G. It is name of organization, and jointly they are developing this direction in Georgia. And as you know, in Georgia, the village is the strength of the city. So we need to keep their population in the villages. And as you can see, the number of population decrease in the villages, the youngsters. And it is important for us to keep those villagers, farmers in the highland areas in the region. So we need to push them and develop those regions in the manner so that our citizens would stay there and develop their businesses locally. So most importantly, numerous projects have been running there that supports
which supports competition in country, and our main objective of Georgia National Communication Commission is to provide equal competition for players at the market. And what we need to do in this year, in this respect, we basically support it. I would also like to say that there are good trends towards amongst our internet providers to develop network in regions, and I will show this in my presentation. And in my this is we have started this since 2002 broadband internet service, and the number of users is 800,000 over, and the penetration of this service in community 76%, and the figures are on rise. As for technology is concerned, and fiber optic network is being developed, and it reaches 74% out of entire users. You can see here that in 2013 DSL and fiber optic users are equalized, and now it's DSL less than 100,000. So fiber optic is on rise. Next slide shows the speed of internet services for between users, and what are the speed, and how users are used this speed. For fiber optic, we can see that 72% of users use over 30 megabyte, and we must say that also with respect to fiber optic, 37% we provide a speed of over 30.7, and we don't see this with respect to other technologies, and the average speed is 2.7. Now we can see geographically how this is distributed, the number of users. At the first diagram you can see the number of accumulated users are in 5 cities. Over half is covered by Tbilisi, of course. 47% out of entire users, and the rest, 35% covers the rest of the villages and towns. Access or for broadband in certain geographical areas, we could calculate in what villages broadband, fixated broadband is available. This is in 78 cities and towns, and in over 900 villages, which comprised of 90% even, and accessibility and penetration is over 10% in every household. This is in regional content, how penetration looks like. In red we see Guria, Rajalechumi and Svaneti, which is quite complicated regions, complex. Rajalechumi is especially complex and less covered. Here we can see visually how coverage has been developing, internet service has been developing. At the first photograph you can see how it was in 2012. In green you can see accessibility, access, and how it raised in 2018. And I must say here that at the picture of 2018 you see how mountainous villages is covered, and you can see how it's still problematic. Mountainous region is still a problem, since you can see red colors on the map. Well, Georgia is a mountainous region, and almost half is considered to be mountainous settlement, and these type of settlements internet access, or 18% is accessible, 16 is towns, and 300 villages, 30,000 users in, and dominant is Wi-Fi wireless internet service in this type of settlements. And if we take out cities and towns, then Wi-Fi share will increase. So Wi-Fi service is dominating here. Mobile broadband service development in Georgia. I have only 2 slides, and I won't take much of your time. This is mobile internet users, the number of mobile internet users, and their penetration in mobile telephone users. We must mention that since 2017 and in third quarter of 2018, 80% is raised. Internet service is raised on 80% because of smartphone penetration and using of smartphone, and this is quite welcoming. And as for the mobile internet using via technologies, as you can see, 4G share is on rise. Third quarter of 2017 is compared with third quarter 2018, and you can see 17% raise. As for the traffic of mobile internet, we have last 2 months of 2018, we can see that in 2016 and 2017 traffic is expanded and raised. It's not just one user is using different technologies, and there was also a consolidated bidding and tender which changed the conditions for internet provision. This was basically, in brief, what I wanted to illustrate in my presentation.
Very useful. I like to see those maps when you see the increase in connection. I see that the one region is very well connected. That's good news. But more seriously, there is still much to do for the mountains. And this is where actually I believe that this national broadband plan might be useful. I would like to finish with this, Eka, as you represent the government here. Will we be, as civil society, technical community, will there be a way to contribute to the work of the government? What's the plan?
Thank you very much.
Certainly, let me start with what are our next steps. First, when we are discussing recommendations of the strategy and action plan, and when World Bank will finalize it, then these recommendations will become strategy, not the recommendation anymore, and every authority will be vested with certain responsibilities so that we all in concert will be able to reach our goal. And we see the presentation, previous presentation, and we see that mountainous regions should be covered and is yet to be done a lot. We work with public authorities and with, of course, Georgia National Communication Commission, and as we reach to the final draft of recommendations, we will discuss it with private sector, with broader civil society, so that we will work with a final draft of strategy and action plan so that we can reach 2025.
I believe I won't be an obstacle to the coffee break. I know there is something before the coffee break, which you tell me. So, wow. Please help me clapping this wonderful panel of today. Thank you very much. Ucha, what's next?
Mabuba.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite you to next hall where we will have signed the memorandum for support of Shav Chev Shureti and Guda Makreti, and Irma is the chairman of GAM Geobas, and Mr. Frederic will also join us in signing MOU, and also other stakeholders who contribute to provision. And one more important coffee break is also out